Hi there and welcome to this week's vlog. As always, thank you so much for joining me. Now, in that period of the Christian year that is called Lent, Lent is the period of about 6 weeks leading up to Holy Week and Easter, and often used to focus particularly on Jesus' journey that he took to the cross and beyond. And the resource that we're using in the church Sue and I go to this year is called Fruitfulness on the Frontline. And I'm going to explain a little bit about that in due course. One of the realities in the minds and hearts of, I think, quite a number of Christians and indeed in the church is that the false assumption that there is a sacred secular divide, that part of our lives is what we might call the sacred bit and part of it is the secular bit. And if we have that mindset, then often we don't think God is really involved all that much in the secular bit. That's far from the truth, and I was reminded of that many years ago when I was a young man, I think recently married. And I was kind of thinking about how God might want to use me in his service, what he might be calling me to. And I went down to London and I had a discussion with somebody at what was then called the Methodist Missionary Society. I was kind of wondering, does God want me to go and serve overseas in some form? And it was a very useful and helpful conversation I had with this lady at Methodist Missionary Society. And one of the things that she said to me was, it's good that you've come and had this conversation, but don't forget that you can serve God just as effectively in your workplace. You don't have to go to Africa or China or wherever to serve God as a missionary. And that brought home to me the reality of that. I was at that time working as an accountant, and most of my colleagues weren't Christians, weren't followers of Jesus, and actually had really a lot of good, interesting conversations with them about Christianity, about the faith, about Jesus. And that's always stuck with me, that we're called to be fruitful wherever we are. And so this resource, Fruitfulness on the Frontline, is challenging us to look at where our front line is, where is the place where we have most contact with people who are not yet followers of Jesus. And for those in full-time employment, it may well be that their workplace is their front line. For others, it may be in their family or in the clubs they belong to or in the neighborhood. It could be wherever we have contact with people who are not followers of Jesus. And one of the key verses in looking at this whole theme comes in St. Paul's letter to the Colossians, chapter 3 and verse 17. And he writes this: whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. So whatever you do it in the name of the Lord Jesus. So if we kind of really grasp the concept of what Paul is saying there, it can revolutionize how we live our lives. And what Paul is saying is that every part of our life is important, can be used to serve God and to serve others. That there isn't a sacred secular divide. God is interested in the whole of our lives. So whether that we're washing the dishes, whether we're ironing, or whatever we're doing, digging the garden. I was talking to one lady at the meeting the other night, and she's spent a lot of the day in the garden, and the revelation that can be an act of service, that God is interested in even just digging the garden, was the revelation to her. But how can we use opportunities that we have to meet with non-Christians in a fruitful way? How can we witness to them through our words, through our lifestyle, through acts of kindness or whatever? So every part of our life is of value to God. I remember some years ago, and I can't remember who told the story. The story of a chap who had he was employed in some way. Maybe he might have been a builder or a bus driver or a dentist. I don't know what it was, but he got a job working for Tear Fund, which is a international Christian relief organization. They do a fantastic work in many countries around the world. And some people in his church said to him, "Wow, you've got a job with Tear Fund. We're going to set up a prayer group to pray for you in that new role that you've got." And he thought, this is great, but most of the time in my job with Tear Fund, I'm working with Christians. Why was it that when I was in my previous job working with mainly non-Christians, nobody prayed for me then? And that's a really important question, isn't it? So whatever we're doing, wherever we are, sitting on the bus, in the workplace, spending time with our family, out in the neighbourhood, whatever, shopping, chatting with the person on the till, whatever, these are opportunities to shine with the light of Christ, to make a difference, to help people if opportunity arises on that journey to discover Jesus for themselves. So there's the question: what's your front line? And are you using it fruitfully in God's service? That's my prayer, that in my front lines, I would use them as God would have, to please God through my act of witness. Remember, whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus. So God bless you. May God help us to do that, to do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus. Thank you so much for joining me today.